available for you afterwards. You'll get an email from us with all of the information to access this recording as well as other follow-up information to the webinar. So as I go through this presentation, and I will be later joined by our product manager, Derek Wood, please feel free to ask questions. We do like questions because it lets us know how to direct the presentation for you and make sure that everything is being addressed that you need to be addressed. So please don't be shy. Find the questions tool in the GoToMeeting toolbar and feel free to ask away. And with that, I'll go ahead and get going. So first we're going to have a look at industry overview and what the opportunity is for selling online backup. So because most of you are here, probably under the guise that you certainly want to be selling online backup, this is probably not new information to you. But of course, business continuity and disaster recovery is important and necessary for small to medium-sized businesses as well as enterprises, no matter where in the world you're located. It's very important to be able to protect structured and unstructured data in any device used within your business. And of course, be able to access it anywhere. So what has propelled this growth in adoption? Number one is the expansion of internet bandwidth. So as more businesses get access to internet, high-speed internet, they also are storing more data. So because they can put stuff in the cloud, they will. Also, there's been a decrease of hostage storage costs. So putting stuff in the cloud is less expensive than it used to be, which is excellent for all of us. The technical sophistication of the population has improved. So if online backup wasn't going to be adopted from the top down in an organization, it was certainly going to be adopted from the bottom up. So fortunately, online backup kind of did follow that suit where it was adopted from the top down, giving organizations a great deal of control and giving managed service providers like you the opportunity to sell it. And finally, there's been a significant increase in the size and value of digital data. So we've been talking about businesses. Let's keep talking about businesses. Business unstructured data is very, very important. It is the lifeblood of that organization. It might be accounting information. It might be legal information. It might be art and design. I know our web designer and developers here do daily bare metal backups of their machines because, to me, their data is so important. I want to be able to get it back if anything does happen, and unfortunate things have happened to their computers. Nobody is immune from it, even people who work at online backup companies. So IDC confirms that there is massive adoption near term by the business community. So this survey was done about a year and a half ago. At that time, 16% of companies that IDC surveyed indicated that they were using online backup presently. 69% of the companies surveyed stated that they were evaluating online backup or planning to use it in the near future. That's a huge number, and that is your market opportunity. So remember that number. It's very important. And then what are SMBs looking for in online backup? These are small to medium businesses, and we generally think of them as being businesses with 10 to anywhere up to 500 employees. Small to medium-sized businesses kind of are ranging broadly depending on who you are and who you think you want to serve, but they certainly are not enterprises. So these businesses want total business data protection, as they rightly should. They want to be able to protect data on workstations, servers, laptops, and mobile devices. So this is PCs, Macs, Androids, iPhones, all of the above. Hopefully our computer does not restart during this presentation. That would be great. And finally, they want to be able to adopt this type of backup and manage it from a central location. They want to be able to deploy, report, and manage online backups from anywhere in the world, because it's very rare that some businesses only have one location. They probably have multiple locations, and they have employees in all of them. Perhaps they have field sales reps. They want to be able to protect their data no matter where they are and wherever they plug in. So what's in the SOS 360-degree partner program for you? Well, we call it a business in a box, which we know sounds a little bit cheesy, but it's absolutely true. Not only do we provide you with a rebrandable online backup software application, but we also provide you with sales materials, marketing materials, weekly live trainings, and the ability to speak with an account manager regarding your sales strategies, pricing strategies, whenever you like. that account manager will always be available to you. And we also have technical support available from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday. So in this host of all these things that we offer you, we also offer you a lot of options, especially compared to other providers out there in the world. One of the most important is that we don't force you to purchase hardware. We're not in the business of selling hardware, nor do we particularly want to be. We like selling software. We think we're pretty good at making software. So we'd prefer to stay in that business, as might you. And that also frees you up for a lot of margin opportunity without having to purchase hardware from your partner. You can also host wherever you like. We commonly host for about 98% of our partners. They use the InfraScale cloud. But we do offer you the opportunity to host privately if you like. So you may have a data center, maybe you're a telecom provider or an ISP, and you have your own data center in which you want to host your online backup solution. You could do that. Or if you are in a location, say like New Zealand, for example, where there are some connectivity issues still in that country, you may want to use a specific data center that will allow you to do a point-to-point connection with your clients and be able to control that bandwidth speed. So what is in the SOS Online Backup Product Suite? A lot of things, if you haven't gathered so far. Our aim is to really be able to back up any type of endpoint within an organization. And there are a lot of them, right? On the right-hand side are pieces of data in devices that are primarily thought of as business data. So we can back up system data. This is operating systems, physical to virtual conversion, and we do have a technology coming out soon called Cloud Boot, which is a much improved virtualization and failover technology. You can back up application data. So this is our SQL server, Exchange data backup, and SharePoint backup. So this is what Derek will be demoing to you later on in the presentation. And we are quite good at backing up your file data. Sometimes we call this endpoint protection, and this is really the unstructured data that companies often have a hard time keeping control of and is also the most valuable to companies. This is documents, images, and emails that are constantly being created by your employees. Over on the left-hand side of the diagram in the blue and blue/green squares, you can see certain devices that are also home devices. So even though we've been talking about businesses throughout this presentation, we do still provide products for home users as well. They're certainly not shoved out of our wheelhouse. So we offer backup for mobile devices, iPhones and Androids, and that also works with tablets on those operating systems, and backup for PCs and Macs. So if you purchase one SOS Online Backup account, let's say in a retail version, and the same is true for your partner versions of software, a customer can really use it on any device. So if I back up my Android, and I back up all my photos on my Android, and then I go to my Account system online on my desktop, I will be able to see all of the photos that I just backed up, which is pretty cool. I'll also be able to recover them. So even if I drop my Android in a toilet tomorrow, I'll still be able to get back all of the photos that I had backed up on it, as well as videos, music, contacts, applications. So our chief SMB backup product for wholesalers is called SOS Server Save. This will be changing in a couple of short weeks, but for now this is still so. It offers Exchange backup and granular recovery, bare metal backup, and a tool called Online Backup Recovery Manager, which is what you would use to send all of the data to the cloud, and of course backup for mobile devices. So the great thing about Exchange backup and granular recovery is that it is really an e-discovery tool. If you Google e-discovery, you'll see that it's very popular amongst legal firms, if not required amongst legal firms. It's also quite popular in finance companies. So if you have any of those within your client base, I would definitely love to hear about it, because we can certainly talk more about how these technologies can help those customers. And while we're on that topic, can I get a show of hands from those of you on the line today about who you're selling to? Are you selling to residential users? Are you selling to businesses? And how many customers are in your downstream? I'm certainly curious about that. Okay, John's selling to businesses. Cool. Selling to CPAs. Okay, very appropriate for what we're talking about here today. Your CPA customers will definitely find Exchange Backup and Granular Recovery attractive. So if they have email messages that they are charged with keeping for 3 to 7 years, which many finance firms are, they would love Exchange Backup and Granular Recovery because they would be able to find any email backed up in any period of time. So what does SOS ServerSafe really compete with? It competes largely with probably companies that you've been talking to if you're considering changing or offering a new online backup solution. These may be Zenith, Intronis, or eVault. All of us offer bare metal backup and recovery. That's kind of a given. It's pretty important to a lot of businesses out there. We also all offer Exchange Backup and Granular Recovery and backup for Windows, SharePoint, SQL. What some of these other firms don't do as well are the flexibility. So unlimited seats per account is huge. Many partners for online backup tend to charge on a seat-by-seat basis, or they charge for specific licenses. We only have 2 types of programs, either with bare metal or without bare metal. So that keeps it really nice and simple. And we do not charge for the number of devices backed up. So all of your customers will always be able to have unlimited backup. The only limitation is the amount of storage that is accessible to them. Another area in which we're quite confident about our abilities is military-grade security. So as I mentioned earlier, about 98% of our partners do use our cloud to back up. And that's the reason for that is because it's highly secure. All of our data centers are Tier 3 and Tier 4 military-grade data centers. Additionally, the encryption method that we use is 256-bit AES locally, 256-bit SSL in transit, and 256-bit AES, again, at rest. So data is always undecipherable. Another great business feature is unlimited and infinite archiving. So we do not limit the amount of time at which you can keep a piece of data. So we believe that your data is yours and you should be able to keep it forever. Our CEO, Ken Shaw, has a demo account that he likes to use that goes back all the way to 2006. He can actually use his calendar view to get back data that he has backed up, any version of a file from October 1st, 2006, let's say. He can go back at any point in time and get it, and it is no different for anybody else. At this time, I'd like to pause and see if there are any questions about what we've covered in the webinar so far. I want to make sure that I'm addressing everything for everyone that they possibly need. So please feel free to type in the questions tool and let me know if there are any questions. Okay, no questions at this point in time. That's all right. We'll go ahead and keep going. So we have data centers worldwide. I had mentioned previously the InfraScale Cloud. The InfraScale Cloud does have 12 global points of presence in North America, Europe, Asia, Australia, and Africa. So no matter where you are in the world, there is a cloud for you. As a wholesaler, you do have the opportunity to select the cloud that you want to be backed up to. So let's say you're in Europe and you need to keep your data within Europe, you can absolutely do that. All of our data centers are secured with 24/7 watch, video surveillance, biometric credential requirements, backup generators, and temperature and humidity controls. So all you need to do when you're investigating a partnership with us is just let your partner specialist know which data center you need to be backed up to. And we'll make sure that that's taken care of accordingly. Let's talk a little bit more about our private cloud online backup option. Again, this is excellent for partners who want to control a point-to-point network or maybe have their own data center that they want to be able to use. If you've already invested in some infrastructure, you may as well continue to use it, right? You can absolutely do that with our online backup private cloud service. So these would still be rebranded solutions. You would still be able to use centralized management with them, and you'd be able to deploy it on-premise perhaps if a customer wanted it deployed on-premise, off-site in another data center, or in your own data center. So why would you want to do this? As I mentioned, creating a point-to-point network, managing your upload speed, or just simply decreasing the cost of your internet connection. In some countries, this is a bigger deal than others. In the United States, it's not really that big of a deal, but you may still want to control it. Sometimes it's advantageous. We have a question from Jeff. Do we bill for the service, or would you? So we bill you, and then you control the billing relationship with your customers. When the customers have a technical question, do they call you, or do they call me? Do they call SOS, or do they call Jeff? It depends. We offer very, very basic online support for them for simple technical questions. We also offer access to our knowledge base for any of them. But if they had a more advanced question, like say they wanted you to physically come to their office, they would, of course, call you. Do you offer the customer bill in XML form so that we can skin it? The customer bill can be created however you want. We do not offer a template for that presently because we like to give our partners the ability to bill however they want. So you may have an electronic system in which you want to bill, or you may want to bill via invoice via paper, and that's all up to you. Let's talk a little bit more about our data center security features. This is really important when we're talking about virtualization security, because anything that is virtualized, you want to make sure is safe. Anything that is stored, you want to make sure is safe. So water supplies. Our Tier 4 data centers include redundant cooling water supplies. That's the only difference between Tier 4 and Tier 3, or one very minor difference. Tier 3 data centers don't have redundant cooling water supplies, but they do have cooling. They do have temperature and humidity controls. Uptime. Tier 3 data centers make their way all the way to 99.9% uptime, whereas Tier 4 makes it all the way to 99.99. That extra 9 is a remarkably big deal. People pay a lot of money for that. What kind of monitoring does a data center need? Well, a data center should always be monitored. It should be monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. No exceptions, and that's absolutely true of our infrascale data centers. Monitoring should include physical security, biometric identification mechanisms, and video recording. So those biometric identification mechanisms might be fingerprint scanners. In some very rare cases, they might be retinal scanners, but they're generally fingerprint scanners. SOS clients and outside personnel are never allowed to access data centers. So sometimes we get asked, hey, can I go visit a data center? No, sorry, you cannot, and that is absolutely for your customers' security. How do data centers protect against every natural disaster that might happen? Yes, it's pretty a large task to protect against anything that might ever happen, but data centers are generally in locations that are somewhat non-natural disaster prone, and they also offer features that can help take care of this, like fire suppression. Tier 3 and Tier 4 data centers include redundant and automated fire suppression systems. They also replicate data. So data is stored redundantly within the data center or off-site, depending on your mode of deployment. And they have extra power generation systems. There are 2 or more power supplies that are used from different power providers. These are usually on-site diesel generators. So let's talk very quickly about the pricing, and I will caveat this with letting you know that this is going to change dramatically in about 2 weeks. For now, these are the pricing opportunities that you can come in. If you speak with a partner specialist, they may give you a sneak preview about how things are changing, but I think that you'll find it quite advantageous to come in at these packages because they do all include bare metal licenses. How many on the line today are interested in bare metal backup versus just simple endpoint protection? Okay, we have Bob, who's very interested in bare metal. So Bob, I highly recommend talking to a partner specialist now so you can get in on one of these special packages that bundles in bare metal backup. Because we will have 2 in the future, one with and one without. So I definitely recommend getting in on this. It's a great value. So our entry-level package for the next 2 weeks includes 1 terabyte of storage and 5 bare metal server licenses. So you can back up Windows, SQL, Exchange, any variety of servers that are Windows-based, with those bare metal backup licenses, and that starts at $3.99 per month. You can also buy annually and save 2 months.
And remember, the storage amount isn't true storage because we don't count versioning against you, so it's a terabyte of what we define as use space, which is quite generous rather than just going to Amazon S3 or just any other storage service. So it's a great value here that we're given as far as the unlimited archiving.
And with that, since Derek's made his introduction, I'll go ahead and hand it over to him so that you can see what you're all here for, which is a demo of our server backup software.
Right. I'm going to pull up a VM real quick of our Windows 2008 box. Has anyone here used the software in a trial? Any specific questions? We're just going to go through a real general run-through. On Friday, tomorrow morning, we're going to have a 9 to 10 a.m. full technical walkthrough. So if you want to see the details of everything, as one of our reps likes to say, the soup to nuts technical run-through, we'll be doing that 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, and that's Pacific Standard Time. So, okay, so let's open this up. So we're in the VM now. I want server save. Server save is just a wrapper executable because we do have multiple applications that we use for the system. So server save is going to contain download links, and it'll have update notifications and also your license details if you're using the bare metal image portion or Exchange Screening and Recovery. Let me see if I can. So this is installed. We're going to download this, and then we'll show you the agents while that's downloading and getting set up. So we have online backup and recovery. This is to get data offsite, whether it's bare metal images, native Exchange backup offsite, and then bare metal image creator is Shadow Protect, and we're going to use that to create bare metal images at a partition or drive level to some local device. We recommend a staging machine. It could be an external hard drive or a NAS if you like. Your choice. So it's going through a quick install, which is a bonus. We don't do this too often. I see a hand raised. Just go ahead and type in some of the questions you may have, and we'll go from there. And then if it's outside of what we're going to show in the demo, we'll just answer that at the end. So while that's installing, I'll open up our online backup application. So this is us logged in. So we have 3 tabs. We have backup, restore, and advanced. So for you partners coming on board, or we have some existing partners on the line. It's good to see our new partners. This is the new 5.7 client, which will be released at the beginning of next week. This banner is an image that you can configure from your dashboard. So this is added as a new rebrand setting. So you can configure this, and you also configure the image here. So you have backup, restore, and then advanced options. We can go in the classic view, various options for changing your caching options. Most of these options are presented to you through the wizard. Excuse me. So I'm going to set up backup. Have files and folders, which is a typical backup at workstations for a file server. You can do this locally as well, and that's typically just for a workstation backup. This isn't a local backup for your file server. For that, you would use the bare metal image tool. We have image stream, which is used to back up bare metal images to the cloud, and then it follows the consolidation rules that Image Manager runs. So Image Manager is a piece of Shadow Protect's services, and it consolidates incrementals, and I'll show you what that means in a bit. Then we have Microsoft Exchange 2010. So this is newly added. So we go into our Exchange backup wizard. It's going to use VSS and identify any Exchange mailboxes that you have. So we can select it. It's going to give us the size and information about the backups if we've done any. And then you can set a retention policy here, so keep the last 30 days, which is pretty common for mailbox backup. So this is consolidation or retention policy in the cloud. So now we have our schedule. So you can run a full backup every 30 days, so it matches up with our retention period. And then you have an incremental backup. We can put just every day. Run the backup at 6 p.m. You can set this however you like. It's going to be based on what you can run. And then just like the online backup, you can enter your Windows domain admin credentials, and this is important to do if you're on a Windows domain, just because if not, you might get a report that has an error back that you didn't have permission to access the file. Then we can run the backup at the end of the wizard, and we have an email report that we can send to multiple people as well, just separate with a comma. So we'll just finish this out, and we'll have it run at the end. Got a good question. It says 2010. Does it support 2003 and 2007? No. Right now, it's just for 2010. Also, new is upload agent details, so it's going to give you information about the backup as it's processing through. So how many files have been found, unchanged, time remaining, time elapsed. This way you can see what's going on. So at this, when I hit show details, it shows me two levels. This level is giving me a file-by-file run-through, so it'll keep up to 20 files. If I have any errors, you see that there's a link in this button, and this will pop up in a little window that just gives me a list of all the errors and the error details. And then this down below is your log window, so you can see what it's working on. So a lot of times when you're working on larger files, it may seem like there's not a lot of progress, but we are copying to a new location. It could be just that transfer time. So that's backing up. That's the online backup portion. And now we have EGR running. So let's see if we can pull up Shadow Protect. So this is the bare metal piece. Who was interested in bare metal? Because now we're going to create one. This is a great program, very simple to use, very powerful. One of the great benefits of this system is that it is so simple. So we have different views. Here, again, we select our partition. So we have it labeled as Exchange Partition. Now, most of you may not have, an organized server where you literally have a new partition for each type of data. So a SQL partition, an Exchange partition, a file partition. But if you're going off-site with this type of data, and it's large, it's recommended that you do so, because when you go off-site with these images and you have to recover, if all you're trying to do is recover your SQL server, Active Directory, whatever it may be, it's going to be a lot faster if you don't have to recover all your other pieces of data as well. So that's why we have it labeled as such. So now you're going to select your staging machine. So you go to network locations and do that. For us, we're just going to use what would be assumed to be a NAS. So it's a maps network drive, and it's just virtual drive F. Then you get into your schedule. So your schedule here is pretty typical for bare metal backup locally. You do a full backup at some point, and it's regular, so you do a full backup every week on Sunday at 6 p.m. And you do incrementals throughout the week until you get to the next full. But if you are going off-site, that really doesn't work. Your full backup could be very large. It's going to take a lot of time. It could take you a few weeks just to get that full backup off-site. So we use a continuous incremental schedule. So single full backup, incrementals throughout the time that you're running backups. So you don't have to redo that except for maybe every year, maybe every 6 months, but you don't have to do it too frequently. And then you're running incrementals from there on out. So this means, yes, you're going to have a ton of incrementals, but the recovery process is no more complicated if you have 1,000 incrementals or just 7. And then there's also Image Manager, which will consolidate your incrementals if you like. One of the benefits to using Image Manager to consolidate your incrementals is that it does do a validation of the integrity of the backups that you're running. And that is one of the biggest reasons that quote-unquote tape backup systems fail so often. I think the last stat I saw was about 60%, and that was from a HP and Score survey. But it was more likely because the tapes were broken. I mean, that's a big part of it, but it's also that it doesn't give you a thumbs up if the integrity of the data is bad. It just says, yes, we wrote data. So test recoveries are a big part of that, and Image Manager helps you out a little bit. So we hit next, then we get our options for compressions. We get none, standard, or high. Standard, about 50%. It depends on the data that you have on the drive, of course. Then you get about 10 to 12 points more with high compression. Of course, the high compression is also going to cost you a little more time, a little more system resource, but if you have a slow internet connection, you want to take these off-site, it may be worth it. Also save you some space in your backup account. So you enter your password. You can encrypt this locally. For HIPAA compliance, you need to. So you hit advanced and you select the encryption level. And that's great, so you can stay HIPAA compliant with this. We do recommend splitting the images up into chunks. So it's just better for backup procedures as well as recovery. Again, the number of bare metal image files, whether it's incremental or parts of it incremental or full, doesn't change your recovery process. And we'll show you what we mean by that in a minute. But we do recommend keeping it in about 5 gig chunks. Get your summary, finish, and now it's going to start running backups. We have options for email reporting you can put in here. Again, we cover this in much more detail in tomorrow's session, which is just a run through the service. So for a full hour, we'll go through the dashboard, how to install strategies and deployment. All of the network traffic is over HTTP. We're not leveraging UDP at this point. It's just more common. All right, so you see my download windows not treating me nicely. Real company name. So that's going to install. Let me show you the dashboard while we're letting that run through. So the dashboard is the heart of the service. This is where you're going to come in every day and take a look at the status of your backups. It gives you an idea of what you need to monitor, what you need to go react to. Also gives you the ability to export some information so that you can give your customers some reporting. So you can tell them, this is why you pay me all the time. So this is our basic dashboard. And the top, we have news and updates. So we update about twice a month on average. So we have 3 updates this month. We'll probably put out another 1 or 2 as we get some big. And was just disconnected. It's going on. So let's continue the dashboard through this browser. So here we have account usage. So this gives you sales opportunities. So it tells you, okay, these accounts are nearing their quota. You need to go upsell them. Or they're over quota. We do allow for accounts to go over quota. So if you have a folder that was selected for backup and it was under quota at the time of selection, fine. And then you add more data to it, it's expected. So we don't stop backups from running. We find that to be very poor user experience, and no one likes their backups not to run. So we give you the tools to lightly enforce this to your customers, and we're going to do the same enforcement to you if it gets a little out of control. So you get a basic idea of here. Also the activity alerts. So you got 11 in the red, 2 in the yellow, 10 in the green. It view all. It brings us to our monitoring dashboard. So here we have different statuses of green. So here we actually have one that's currently uploading. So we come over here to details, shows us the progress. This updates every 15 minutes. If more than 45 minutes goes by and there's no update, then you would get a yellow that says, all right, this was running, but we haven't had an update in a while. Excuse me. And then if it goes for 2 hours, then you get a red saying we stopped receiving updates from it. Doesn't necessarily mean the backup's not running. It just means it's not communicating with the dashboard, but it lets you know that you need to go check things out. We do a lot of trials through here, so we have a lot of accounts that have been, or backups that were canceled for testing purposes, or trials that just expired. So there's no backups during the last week, and that's what it did the last time I ran a backup. As an admin, you also have the ability to just remove records, and when you go into account management, you can log in as accounts. You can set up companies. So let's go to the company level. So you set up a company that you'd like. So here we have demo company. You can change, you set the company quota as far as how much storage and how many licenses they have. And we can log in as the company. So the company account is created, and you can give this out to the company admin or you just keep it yourself for organizational purposes. And then you can do just company level reporting. So your monitoring services, if you saw, has a daily digest email you can send out, and that lets you get an update of just what's happening. We don't transfer over FTP. We just do HTTP because it's most common from a machine standpoint and from an endpoint backup. Most backup solutions neglect the users or your endpoints, and with mobile workers becoming more and more common and the bring your own device movement, being able to have the most common options for backing up data is paramount to having a successful and easy to manage service. So here, send daily reports to this email address. So you can enter multiple email addresses. So if you just have somebody in the company that wants this, you can do that. You just get a daily, once a day, that sends an update of all the deployments. You can also control backup policies. So a backup policy is a backup set and schedule. So we don't have one, so let's create one. So policy name, not paying me, or whatever it is. I guess you wouldn't do that from a company standpoint, but here, don't back up, don't run. And so we would select, okay, when it runs, just don't scan or select anything. The policy you say here is going to override whatever's been set locally, so you don't have to worry about people actually logging in and overrunning this. You set the same options as we saw on the client, and then email reports, and then you save. And then that's where we manage our policies, and then when we go into view accounts, backup account, as long as it's not ultra safe. Ultra safe is for HIPAA compliance. But if we want to change the account size, change the email, or manage policies, we can do that. And you can see machine 1, apply the don't run policy. And now on this machine, no backup will run. It may kick off, but it's not going to protect anything. Any questions on the dashboard, anything we've gone through? One new feature also is client messaging. So the client messaging is in the software client itself. So when the software client is loaded, there will be some image that's displayed at the bottom of the software client when they're logged in based on the installation of some program. So if you want to make sure that all your users are running a specific antivirus program, it's a pretty common use case. So you can enter the registry key path, successful message link, so the whole image becomes a button. So for example, if the antivirus program is not installed, you can have a link to the download URL for the one that you want to be installed. Also, this is a nice way to keep any upsell if you have other services you want to push on your users. And then backup history, this is how you report. So it gives you a full update of what's been happening. So you export this to Excel. And then you can just drop in a quick pivot. Customers love paying for pretty pictures. And you can just do whatever you like. So it's uploaded per system. So you can see how many files were protected per system in that span of time. And you can do whatever you like. And the demo. I think I answered that question. Does the reporting come in machine-readable format like XML, CSV, XLS? So Excel right now is how it's exported. Question? All right, let's show some recovery. We have it installed here. So the recovery functions are pretty powerful in that you can see the unlimited version history power. So the first option to go through is you go to restore, online restore. So it's going to refresh from the server. Oh, this account has an issue. Cancel. Let me log out. So I'm going to restore, and you see the calendar view here is going to show a bold date for each day that you've run a backup. And then you can go back in time. So okay, now I'm done refreshing. And I can go back in time as far as I would like. So I can go back to 2010 and refresh my backup set. Let's see, I have 2 machines on there. And then I can drill down and go through all the files. So let's go back. And let's go back to today's date. Hit next, refresh, and now I see all the different machines. So I have multiple phones, iPads, Mac, different demo servers, different laptops. So you can really see over a period of time, users really start, you really go through a lot of different machines. We don't have a per seat license for just the file and folder backup, for online backup, which is really nice and flexible for this very reason. And then you can go through and just see what files you have. I guess I don't have any versions to show. And the versions appear in the drop down. So in this version, in this date here, it'd be a drop down and just gives you all the different versions. Then you select your recovery option to default location, new location. You can include the original file path with it or not. If it's just files and there's no folders that you're recovering, then I wouldn't recommend including it. And you can just save it to some new location. Then you hit finish, and then it'll recover. And with that, I think that's pretty much it. So go call your partner specialist today, get a trial account, run the backups. You'll be able to see the monitoring system, the dashboards, really see how the system works with you, and shows you what you need to protect and what you need to go pay attention to when you have this installed on 200 different machines.
All right, thank you very much, Derek. And we'll go ahead and conclude the webinar now. Thank you all very much for attending. We appreciate your patience. And you will be hearing from us in about 48 hours with a recording of this webinar. Thanks again.